Episode 19, Movements and Rumors.
They couldn't have been that lucky if he ended up in the barrier at Eau Rouge, though, could
No, I think he's done well to get rid of his unlucky pants.
they? Get rid of him,
Whatever he
yeah.
invested into was probably.
Cut these things off me now. Just don't cut anything else off down there.
Welcome to the Two Mechanics podcast. Kenny Handkammer and Mark Grain have 18 Formula One World Championships between them, have been in the Guinness Book of World Records twice. They have over 30 years of motorsport stories between them, not to mention the 40,000 beers. Cheers. What you say?
So what we're saying, Mark, I mean, is multiple people moving around and other rumours. You know what we're saying about that?
Well, no, what are we saying? What we're saying is no Grand Prix still. We know we're in this big enforced gap.
Yeah.
But crikey, there's a lot going on. It's a shame. I mean, just on that, we know we don't talk just about Formula One because there's no IndyCar race or anything either. So it's been a bit quiet on the motor racing front. But yeah, a lot of news has come out, hasn't it, this week?
What's your take on the McLaren movements? I mean, you're obviously a lot more connected there than me.
Well, the big thing there is, right, you've got this announcement that Lambiassi's moving from your old team, Red Bull, to my old team, McLaren, right? And Lambiassi's joining McLaren, not as a race car engineer, but in a senior leadership role that's being advertised as just a support role for Andrea Stella, just sitting underneath him. But that's already a bit of a busy space. I think Will Courtney's sporting director, Lambiassi's going as racing director, Andrea Stella as team principal. You know, it's
but now we're talking about Stella going back to his old team, right? Ferrari. So
well, I've heard that.
Has it been confirmed by both ends? But
no.
So there's no confirmation. So there's definitely a mix up there. Right?
Yeah, I'm not convinced about that. I think Andrea's very happy in the UK, very happy at McLaren. I think you can't take it away from the guy. He's done a good job. He's led them to the drivers and a constructors championship again. So hats off to him and the rest of the team. The only thing I wonder is if Lambiassi is going to come as team principal, because then that starts to make a bit of sense. And Andrea is moving up and taking Zach's role, and Zach moves up to the chairman's role of the whole group. So he looks after the motor racing team and the automotive company, the road car company. And Zach sits, and that's currently a role that's occupied by Paul Walsh, former CEO of Diageo, which was Johnny Walker. So that was, obviously a big sponsor of the McLaren team in the past. So Paul is one of those guys. He's a friend of Ron and a friend of Zach's. There are a few of them about. So, if Paul's thinking of moving on and he's given notice, and, somebody like him in that big position needs to give an organisation, a year, 2 years notice, and then Zach steps up into that overall chairman of the group role, and Andreas steps up into head of all of the motor racing activities.
Yeah, so that would make sense about the move being 2028, isn't it? So that's, and we know the timeline on gardening leave, which
all of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. So that kind of holds water as a bit of a theory. The only thing that I would say about the head of the motor racing division, which would be Formula One, sports cars, IndyCar, is you've got to be a bit of a deal maker, a bit of a businessman, not just a motor racer with an engineering background. So that would be a bit of a stretch, I think, for Andrea, but it makes it, as a sequence, as a chain, and the timing of it all, that all makes sense. But we'll see. But the thing that I heard was that Lambiassi's going, and his contract is as team principal, not as At the moment, the press release is saying it's head of racing, but I don't know what that means. It's kind
No,
of
they're quite good at making up names these days.
yeah, it's a press release name. I think that one is, and you're right. People are very good at making up job titles and so on these days. And then the other thing that I'm hearing about McLaren is the my former colleague and friend, a fellow called Piers Thin, who's the chief operating officer at McLaren. I believe he's moved into another role, kind of gone across
Oh, right.
sideways. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one, see if that one's
Is that a rumor, or is that if you've got a scoop there,
well.
or can't you say? Is that
Um,
that's the boozer talking?
that's British. That's the British motor racing jungle drums banging away and letting me know that. So it'd be interesting. I haven't spoken. The answer to that is I had no contact with Piers in for forever, and it's not like he's told me or anything like that. But I do believe he's moved into a role still within McLaren, but he's not fulfilling that chief operating officer's job anymore. And for people listening, that role is basically running the entire factory. That's what that chief operating officer's job is. So, and again, Piers has presided over a turnaround there and some, constructors championships and drivers championships. So,
How long's Piers been here for?
oh, yes, good question. He's been there quite a while. I think Piers must be something like 17 to 20 years, I would guess. Easy,
Right.
easy that.
Okay.
So yeah. So I think to all of that is there's a bit of flux behind closed doors. There's a bit of flux, a bit of movement going on at McLaren. It's from the outside, I guess it seems okay. And fair play to them if they're thinking about the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years and they're putting that planning in place.
Which you
Then
need to do.
what you need to do, then that all makes sense. So we'll see. We'll keep everybody posted on that one. But that's what I've got at the moment on that. And of course, all of these people, Ken, are going. There's been a big influx of people at McLaren coming from your old team, Red Bull.
Yes, I mean, there's obviously a couple of years ago, Rob Marshall went there. I worked at
Yeah.
Benetton with and Red Bull. Fantastic engineer. We've already spoken about that, And but look at and Will Courtney, of course, now Lambassi, but look the decline of Red Bull, which is quite sad. I mean, if I was the CEO of Red Bull Global, I'd be thinking, well, you know, look who he's lost. He's lost not in any order, but in this order. But he's Christian, Adrian, Jonathan, is now Lambesi, Will Courtney, and it looks like Hannah Schmidt, head of
Oh,
strategy,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
is rumored to go too. So all these massive key people, and there's talk that there's going to be more. So that's a real head scratch. How do you reconfigure the team?
Well, that's the challenge for Lauren Mekies, isn't it? That's the big job he's got on, and at the same time, run a racing team this year that's got to turn a car around that's obviously off the pace and get that somewhere near the pace, and he's got to do all that, and he's got to convince Max that the team that he will mould and form are capable of winning championships in the future, capable of turning this car around, make this car into a competitive car. I know Max doesn't like the regulations, right? And it's not, and we've said it before, it's not an uncompetitive car at Red Bull that's giving Max the ache. It's this generation of cars, it's these racing cars. So even if he had a fast Red Bull, I would still say Max is still going, yeah, won the race, but these cars are horrible. Right.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that. And there's also the rumor that Lambesi, if they split up, that Max will retire or he'll do something else because they've had such a close bond.
said it before, if
That's or not, I don't
Stefano
know.
Domenicali lets Max go out of Formula One, then I see that as a failure. That's to let the most talented race car driver on the planet at the moment, which I genuinely believe he is. I strongly believe he's the fastest in the world at the moment. put him in anything, then he should be in Formula One. And if he's not,
Yeah.
that's a failure of Formula One as an organisation. You've got to keep him in it.
Yeah, true. And there's all these well, they're not just rumors that are happening. There's this massive scramble to reconfigure the regulations for Miami, which is already, you can say that's a failure, right? They've already failed if they're going to have to rewrite the regs fourth race in. Um,
I see that as an evolution. I think these new regs are such a big step that it was always going to take a bit of, I'm going to call it debugging, and I know that that's under egging it. I know it's a bigger challenge, but that's the way I see that. I see that as it's just you had to get out, you had to get out there, you had to get racing, and it needs these reworks. But
yeah, I agree with that. But you would have thought with the capacity of the FIA, how many years they've been working on this, it would have come out the box a bit cleaner and a bit.
yeah,
But
maybe I'm being too kind on them.
I think you are,
Maybe you're right.
or maybe I'm just a rough diamond here. Uh, yeah, let's see what comes out of the FIA and all those meetings between. It's not just teams, it's drivers as well. Obviously, putting their input into that. Um, so interesting times going ahead.
Yeah,
So hopefully, we've
yeah,
got something better to look forward to.
yeah. I mean, like we said last week, I think that there's there's a lot of hard work going in while in this window where these cancelled races.
Yeah,
Um, so hopefully the combined brain power of the teams with Formula One and Stefano and his team and the FIA can come up with some ways of operating these cars that give the fans what they want, give the drivers what they want, and make for exciting racing and just not some of the dire stuff that we've had so far. You can't ever convince me that lifting off in a corner so you've got more energy down the straight, so you actually go faster,
especially at
even though
Suzuka.
you've lifted off, is any good for any form of motor racing, let alone the pinnacle. But
Yeah, I agree. So I want to change it up a little bit.
go on then.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
In your racing days, and obviously you've done a lot of that through many formulas, probably more than me. Did you have any race day superstitions? I know Alex Works had this red boot, blue boot thing
Oh yeah, he did,
because
didn't he? Yeah.
he scrambled in F3 to get to the grid for some reason. He put two different boots on. He won a race, and then he continued that throughout his career. And obviously that was a little bit mixed with a bad car at Benetton because I believe Wirtz was a fabulous driver, but didn't have the right brake and was probably beaten to hell by Dr. Marco because he did extremely well in sports cars, right? In Le
I was
Mans.
going to say he won at Le Mans, didn't he?
Yeah.
Alex won there. Yeah, and Alex, I worked with Alex as when I was test team chief mechanic at McLaren, and he was test driver. So, and yeah, it was always one of his. I know we're kind of getting off your question a bit, but one of the things that Alex just couldn't get his head around was simulator, right? And in those days, the simulators weren't as sophisticated as they are now. And he used to get in it, and he'd get motion sickness. He'd do about 5 laps.
Michael Schumacher was exactly the same. He got motion sickness too, and
Yeah.
he let all the boys do that stuff, and then he tried on track. But anyway, did you have
Yes.
any?
I don't know whether this is.
Or if you didn't, do you know people that did have, like we just spoke about Alex?
Well, I don't know whether this is just OCD or whether it's a superstition, right? But every time, every time I put a headset on in the morning, where this
Yeah.
could be, so this wasn't race day specific. I'll always do the same thing. I'll get the headset and I bang it together, rub it, do that, make sure nobody's stitched me up by putting any grease on the headband or anything like that.
That would never happen, would it? Or
Yeah, exactly.
blue
And,
striping
do
guy,
that.
yeah.
And if I ever get interrupted, because I'm obviously, with the day job with Extreme H, still go away and we still get headsets and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So I still do it to this day. And if ever I get interrupted, I'm doing it. I have to start again. So I don't know whether that's OCD or superstition, but that I have
Or
to
just
do.
a habit.
I have to do it. I, I can't do the day without doing it.
Okay.
All of that.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, our old mate, Dave Redding, would tell you superstition don't matter. You know, he's all like that. But even if it's a bit of fun, then it's
Yeah.
why not? What about yourself?
So yes, we did. We did for a few years until they wore out. We had a whole bunch of us, and a lot of it was the people that were working on Michael's car, and a few others. We had a big night in an establishment called Hooters, which you can buy some
Oh,
spicy wings at.
really?
American joint. If anybody's heard of that,
Really?
you know,
Okay. Yeah.
pictures of beer and local wings and
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So we all
Nice
decided,
ambiance, I bet, and just fantastic
yeah,
service. Yeah.
yeah, obviously,
I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, and so we decided as the night got on that we should all go buy these Hooter boxer shorts, and that they were going to be our race day pants. They were our lucky day race day
And
pants,
who
and they're
who
the
is
ones with they're old school ones with just white with owls on them. And so when we got changed into, well, we put them on obviously in a hotel in the morning,
who
but
is
then we had
with?
to put our overalls, our fireproofs on during the race, and everybody getting ready had all these race day lucky pants,
Who?
and in some ways I could say, in that particular time, but in 94, 95, they actually worked. So we did okay on them. So we're gonna
Who
we're gonna
who
put
is
it
the
down to
we?
our lucky race day pants, which are the
Yeah.
Hooters boxer shorts.
Yeah. So who was with you and who bought these and
Uh,
who used to
I,
sport them for the races?
Jonathan Wheatley,
Oh.
uh, Andrew Allsworth, aka the Puff,
Ah.
looking my number one,
Balls.
one of the best blokes you'll ever work with
Ah,
in Formula
Max.
One, a good experience. Reg, a couple of gearbox guys, and I think Dave Redding might have had a pair actually, so he might be held accountable as well for that.
Yeah.
But there was probably 12 of us, I think.
I remember DC David Coulthard, he used to have he used to have some lucky pants. I remember him telling me. And then
He's always had lucky pants in
and
more ways
then
than one.
but he had a shunt in Formula Vauxhall Lotus or Opel Lotus, one of the junior categories that's no longer about. But
Yeah.
I'm sure he shunted at Spa. I'm sure it was Spa. I'm sure it was Eau Rouge. And they had to cut him out of the car, and then they cut him out of the overalls and cut his lucky pants off as well. So I think he was a bit gutted about that. They couldn't have been that lucky if he ended up in the barrier at Eau Rouge, though, could
No, I think he's done well to get rid of his unlucky pants.
they? Get rid of him.
Whatever he
Yeah,
invested into was
cut these things off me now.
probably quite
Just don't
good.
cut anything off. Just don't cut anything else off down there.
Yeah. So I think the other thing I'd like to touch on is, during pit stops, etc. Do you have any like how do you deal or didn't deal with, or how do you go about race day nerves or pit stop nerves? Let's say pit stops, because I think as we did it back in the days, I did the front jack for 15 years, and we didn't have any overalls. We were doing it in shorts, right? We didn't have any protection. And the car would come in blazing hot with no pit lane speed limiter like there is now.
Yeah.
You know, uh, uh, 150 plus miles an hour, especially places like Monza, locking up in front of you. Um, yeah, and then we all had, high pressure moments like that, especially
Yeah.
putting wheels on and wheels off, and all those critical things that you can really mess up quite badly by making a small mistake.
Yeah.
It's still happening now.
Do you know what? This is not. There's no bravado in this answer, but for me, it was all about the fact that we just practiced so much and we trained so much, and so when it came down to it, um, everything just kicked in.
Yeah.
That you saw the
Adrenaline,
car
yeah.
come in and you were going. You were just the training kicked in. I remember. So Brazil in 2009, 2009. It would have been the last year of refueling, 2009. I used to run the fuel desk, so the laptops and controlling the amount of fuel that's going into the car, working with a fellow called Brian and Big Rodney, who used to be on the McLaren race team. They got the nozzle going in, and Rodney would take the weight of it. Brian would connect with the car. Pete, who had the lollipop, Pete Vale, releasing the car and so on.
Oh, I know.
And I'd be there, and I would be in live comms with Pete, with Brian, and starting and stopping the flow of the fuel. Okay, from the two laptops, one for each car. That's how it worked. And it was the last ever refueling stop, and for forever, because refueling was being banned. It was with Hakey, and the car got released. Accident before Brian had come off, and I was there with a laptop, and I'm calling out the half measure, that everybody know, and I looked up, and it all just off. It all just went to my left, right, and Brian got dragged along with it, and the hose all got yeah. I mean, it was a right old scene, and then I can't remember. The car went down the pit lane with Hakey, and some other team did the decent sporting thing and disconnected the hose for us.
Yeah, I think it's Williams, was it?
It might have been Willys. I really can't remember without checking. And even then, do you know, it was right, spare fuel, refueling rig out, reconnect, do all the checks with a dump churn, recalibrate everything, and it was just everything that we practiced just kicked in that
Autopilot.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
into a different mode. Yeah, I think your head goes. This sounds a bit cliche, but your head does go to a different mode. I mean,
Yeah,
when
I think
that car comes roaring at you at 800 degrees, revving and barking. Obviously we were doing it in the V10 days. It's terrifying. It can be terrifying, and I've
yeah,
seen other people deal with it
that's a
differently.
good
Just
reminder.
freeze, get emotional, very emotional if they've made a mistake, which is, I
Yeah,
think, shameful because we have to do some extraordinary things, but we're not paid like an athlete, right? We're not paid like a driver to do these high pressure jobs, and I think that's really unfair when you put people in those situations where emotionally it can be a lot if you make a mistake.
yeah. I think I've long been an advocate that you know um, the core racing team, the people who have to step out into pit lane, do all of that sort of stuff, are should be rewarded as such and treated like elite sportsmen. Now, with that comes some consequences to their lifestyle, shall we say, and and I think it has moved in that direction, hasn't
Well,
it?
everybody
But
is functionally fit now. Everybody has their own
yeah,
gym. They have to. It's not you're going to the gym at lunchtime. You go there and you get a slot that works with a personal trainer from 4:30 till 6:30 or 3 till 5:30 or whatever it is. So we know we're very aware of all that and was involved in that transition. Um, so yeah,
I
so
do remember. I do remember a few years back there was a suggestion that each member of the pit stop team should, like any other, like football or anything like that, should have a number on the back and their name across the shoulders.
right,
But I think that went away in order to protect those people in
yes,
case anything went
absolutely.
wrong. So
That you've definitely got a number on your back, right?
yeah, literally. Oh, that's Bill Smith, number two on the
Yeah,
left
yeah,
rear
yeah.
for McLaren, or
100%. That
whoever
would be
Willis.
terrible.
Oh, and that's a dreadful mistake by Bill Smith. So, and I
Then he
think
gets
that's why it went
battered when he
away.
gets home, right?
Yeah,
He gets
yeah.
battered down the
But
local boozer.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I do
so
remember. Yeah, I do remember there was one instance at McLaren, and we used to cycle through factory-based fabricators and so on. We had one fabricator who came out, and he'd done the practice with us, and he was just doing the car steady. So you step out, you put your hand on the roll hoop, steady the car while the wheels and tires are being changed and so on, and then you step away. So I say it's fairly straightforward, but I guess it's straightforward to somebody like yourself, somebody like me, somebody who's been in and around the pit lane for forever. So, but when it actually came to it, he locked up in the garage, and he couldn't. Yeah, it was overload. So again, certainly not having a go at the guy, and I'm definitely not going to say who it was. But it's just an example of that,
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot
But that's the
expected of.
training, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're in it, you're doing it all the time. The training kicks in. I mean, the expression, I'm sure, was certainly at McLaren. It was, on Sunday morning, you got your race face on, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
That was the expression. And you can go through qualifying, you go through practice, all of that stuff leading up. But Sunday morning, race face, and
Yeah.
you're in that mode. So yeah.
So I think it's time to lead into whose round is it?
Okay, gents, move down. Closing time. Whose round is it?
I think I know who I think whose round it is. I'm going to say it has to be not just this one guy, but him and his two other drivers. I think Lance Stroll and his two teammates who were driving at Ricard in the GT race probably owe the team a beer. I think there was a few shunts along the way. There were some penalties along the way, and it all kind of unravelled for them. And they finished 12 laps down, was it? So
Yeah. I think were they lapped 10 times or something?
I think I think it's 12. I think they were lapped 12 times. So yeah, I think they owe their guys a beer for that one. Myself, I don't know what you think.
For me, I think Lambesi going to McLaren because he's going to have a wheelbarrow full of cash that he's has no idea what to do with. So he should be
no idea what to do with.
He should be buying the beers for Red Bull guys that he's leaving, and probably getting a comfort zone round in for the boys that he's going to start working with at McLaren. So
or he could bit of cash out to those he's leaving behind, and then throw a bit at the people he's got to go and work with. Yeah,
yeah, these are the people he's going to punish, so he's going to buy them a beer.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout.
Okay, well, I think we're at time. So thanks again to everybody. Please follow and subscribe to YouTube. We really appreciate it. We've had some great comments. We had a great comment on how bad we were, which was really good for us because we've upped our game now. And we were absolutely correct. We were bad audio, much worse than this, and video wise. So we've had our team look at that and help us out. And I hope this is much better. And if you find any mistakes or anything, please be super critical because we know we're rubbish at a lot of things.
Yeah, I second that. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Again, as Ken's pointed out, thanks for the comments. I'd like to also there's all you see is our two ugly mugs, but there is actually a team behind this. There's Chris and Mal and Nichole, and they're working really hard to support us with this. So thanks to them. But yeah, and don't forget you can find these podcasts wherever you find your podcasts. We're on all the platforms. So keep watching, keep sending us that feedback, and we will see you again soon.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Cheers. Bye.